Hi, my name's Rachel Rose. I'm a boxing and mindset coach based in the UK. I'm also a singer-songwriter and actor as well.
We literally just met last week on our very good friend's retreat, or one of my very good friends' retreats. As we started talking, you and me were just like, oh my God, we're going to be friends.
Literally. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah, literally. We had just so much in common. And I was like, I would love to interview you and just chat about all things martial arts, mindset. We bring this kind of spirituality in, what it's like to be a woman inside the sport. So can you tell us about your journey into boxing and how you found it?
I first discovered a love of boxing when I was 18. I was at university in a dance crew and we would dance in the ring. So we would dance like in between the bouts.
Cool. Yeah, I get
very
it.
Cool.
Awesome.
So we would just like perform, we had to choreograph it so we were all facing outward so that we would do the thing. And that was I remember watching the fights and being like, what is this magic? Like, this is incredible. And obviously I knew what boxing was, but I'd never been at a fight. So I was like, at Xanax to these lads and I was like, tell me everything. What are they doing? What does this mean? What does this mean? And from then I kind of built up a relationship with the head coach because I was like, I didn't want to box or anything. I just wanted to be there. I just loved the energy. I loved the experience. Fast forward a year later, one of the fighters that I'd met on the previous night said, look, I'm assistant coach at this gym and I was wondering if you and the girls wanted to come down and just like try out a session. We'd love to have more girls in. I was like, yeah, sure. So sort of rallied the troops and off we went. And I'd never really been sporty. I've danced my whole life, but I'd never been sporty. I'd never considered myself fit. And I'd never felt like all my other girlfriends were petite little things. And I was always just like, I'm just not good at sport. It's just not my thing. I dance, rah, rah. Anyway, the first 20 minutes of the session, the head coach was doing pads with me and he was like, how long have you been boxing for? And I was like, 20 minutes. And he was just like, no, in life, like, how long have you been boxing for? And I was like, 20 minutes. And straight away he was like, I want to train you up for the Women's Amateur Championships.
Wow.
Boom, just like that. And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, I knew I was enjoying it, but I was like, oh, I'm good at this. And so I started to train a bit more. And then I was like, look, I've got this heart condition. I've just been diagnosed with it. So let me just run it by my specialist and it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. He never says no to anything. Took it to my specialist and he was like, absolutely not. No way. No way. And he was like, and you'll never get signed off by any of the doctors anyway. They're not going to let you. They won't let you. You'll never get carded with a heart condition. Like, and I was bummed. I was like, I feel like I'd just been given this thing that I was good at. And then in the same breath, it was just taken away. And I was like, okay, this sucks. So I carried on the training anyway, because I loved it. And then when I left university, I stopped training for a bit, just went into like weight training and stuff like that, and then picked it up again. And it was like a play-by-play. Coach comes over, how long have you been boxing for? And I was like, and he was like, I want to train you up to fight. I said, well, got this heart condition. And I didn't realize at the time, because I didn't know much about my heart condition at the time anyway, I didn't realize just quite how hard it is to get into the ring with a heart condition. So I was like, look, I've got this heart condition, but I've been on meds for years. Like, it should be fine now, because this was like 5 years later. I was like, it should be fine now. And absolutely not, no. So I started again, got into the camp, and then it was like the doctor wouldn't sign it off. It was a real bummer because I really loved the sport, but I was like, I don't get it. I don't get why I can't do this. And I really felt like I was supposed to get in the ring at least once. I could see it. I was like, I'm supposed to do this once. Fast forward to COVID, I came out of COVID and was like, I want to get back into boxing properly. Met this coach the next day in the park by my house because none of the boxing gyms were open yet. And I was like, sweet, cheers for that, universe. And I said to him straight off the bat, I'm never going to be able to fight. Don't ask me to, because it's just annoying me. Let's just get me really technically brilliant. I just want to be technically brilliant. So that began that journey. And then a year and a half later, my life was going rapidly downhill. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm doing it somehow. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way I can do this just once. Started making some prayers, some bargaining with this guy. And I was like, just once. And I found a white collar fight through Gym Box, which is a big gym in the UK, really cool gym. And I signed myself up, and I basically just had to sign a waiver that said, if I die, it's my fault, effectively. And that was it. I got in the ring, and it was the best and scariest 6 minutes of my life. And when I came out, I was so happy. I was so happy. And at that time in my life as well, I was really, really unhappy. And I was like, if I can reach this level of happy in this dark time, this is a thing for me. This is my tonic. And it also gave me hope. So I was like, right, well, I clearly can't fight. I'm not supposed to. And I fought heavier as well, which did help the fainting that happens with my heart. I'm now about 6 kg lighter than I was then. But, you know, the intensity of the training and stuff is very unpredictable.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll be a coach. I'll become a coach because then I can be there and I can still experience it, but I'll be on the other side. And that has now been the last couple of years of my life. And it's just like something in my life makes sense. It just makes so much sense. And that is now where I am.
You're at. Before we get into that whole section, because I've got lots of questions around that, but I just want to wind it back a little bit as well. When you were training, like before, when you were like, oh yeah, I'll be able to fight, but can't because of your heart condition, and then obviously signing the waiver and going to, what was the challenges that you were experiencing? You just mentioned, like fainting and things, but what other things were you kind of physically struggling with?
Dropping weight too low can have a big impact on the symptoms. A lot of cortisol, a lot of stress, big impact on the symptoms, and the symptoms are breathlessness, dizzy spells. It can have digestive issues to straight up blackouts. Sometimes I can black out and be out for 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it can be when it's really bad, the symptoms are really bad and a blackout is like looming. I'll start skipping and be breathless as if I just sparred for 3 rounds. And it's taken me a long time to make peace with the fact that that's how my body acts, because I would fight against it and I would almost be like, no, this isn't what my body does. And I would push myself to black out to try and pretend that that's not what was happening to my body, because I'd been very angry at my heart condition.
Yeah.
I was very angry at what it took from me. I was very angry at being sick. I was very angry at being out of control, and not being allowed to box felt like this war that I was going against with my body, instead of just learning how to work with it.
Yeah.
And understand that that's who you are now. That's what you have. That is your situation, and be at peace. It took me a long time to find that acceptance. And I think getting in the ring once and just doing it once, I could make a lot of peace. In the last year especially, I've learned how to respect my body a lot more, and just now in training sessions, if I could feel the symptoms coming on, I just
back off.
Just back off. I don't try and fight with it anymore. I'm just like, this is who I am and this is what happens to me. And actually, I do others a disservice as a coach if I disrespect myself.
Totally.
I have to show up in a way that I would expect my clients to show up or my fighters to show up. Because now it's like when you put yourself in that position, you have to lead by example. And that forces me to look at myself a bit more.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, like we talk a lot about this at Femme, is like the difference between women's bodies and men's bodies as well. We're dealing with a completely different system, completely different biology. It's a different ball game. And so I think specifically for women, because we are so much more detailed, we've got lots of details, that extra bells and whistles that are going on, like learning to respect your body is even more important. Men can push themselves a little bit further. They just can. And I think also, I don't know if you experience this, but it's like, it's hard because you kind of want to beat the boys. You want to match the boys. Typically there's more males in a gym or in a fight team specifically than women usually. So did you struggle with that as well? Do you think that was a big piece?
Huge. Yeah. Like there's something really strange about what can happen with women in martial arts gyms. I'm not going to speak for other people, but definitely that I experience with, you almost feel like you have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
I can do what you can do. I'm just as fit as you. And then I learned as I got older, and also understanding my cycle.
Yes.
And I talk really, really openly now about periods in the gym in front of the lads, to be like, I am a different makeup to you.
Yeah.
And also then to give the women permission to be like, you are a different makeup to them. Your luteal phase, you're going to feel awful. You are going to feel tired. You're going to feel heavy and sluggish. You might get injured more easily. And to understand that, like drip feeding that information just by being honest in myself and being like, this shouldn't be a thing that is questioned or, you know, whatever.
Totally. You shouldn't have to feel like you've got to prove yourself because like your body's literally doing the thing that it's doing.
Literally,
you know?
like if I'm not pushing myself as hard, I'm like, can I just ease off? I just say to the boys, I'm like, I'm having a really bad period. And they're like, okay. Even if they are uncomfortable in that moment, they're learning to not be uncomfortable in that moment and to understand it better. But I think also when I started to get more comfortable in being a woman, when I started to be more comfortable in being feminine and understanding that my superpower is I bring that into the gym.
Totally.
I am not supposed to be them. I bring something so different that's beautiful and interesting and magical and strange and whatever, but I bring something brand new to the table. And if I can honor that, I'm not afraid now. I don't train at all with ego, and I tell them straight up, I'm like, hit me like you're hitting a toddler. That level of power. Because I don't need concussion. You're 6'3" and 120 kilos. I don't need a concussion. I don't need you to knock me out in the gym just to prove that I can't compete with you. We are different body types. We are different weights. We are different strengths. And learning to just say to them, like, I joke with the boys and I'm just like, I'm a ring princess. And I mean, like, in the past, I would never have referred to myself that way because I'd be like, that's not part of this. And I'm like, but I am. I'm an absolute princess in that gym and I don't need to get no black eyes. I'm good. I'm happy being technically good, moving my body, working really hard, but being treated well. Like, I don't need to go head to head with these people. And the people who do match me at that energy, there's people that come into the gym and because I'm the coach and because they're clearly not very comfortable in their own masculinity, so they won't challenge the guys in the same way they challenge me. And I say to them, go easy on me, go light. I don't need heavy, because I don't heavy spar. I think you should only heavy spar when you're going into a fight, but that's just my opinion because head injury is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
So I think people should light spar unless they're in fight camp and they're starting to prepare for that. Anyway, I'll say to them, can you go easy on me? And they deliberately come back hard.
Yeah.
And I just walk away. I'm like, I'm done. Because I'm not interested in matching that energy.
There's nothing to
I've got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
And I've learned that, and I say that to the ladies as well who are starting to build up confidence because I teach a women's class and they'd like to transition into the mixed, but they're nervous. They don't know who they can trust. And I'm like, that's okay that you don't know who you can trust. You learn who you can trust. I have my hand pick. I'll spar with you, I'll spar with you, and I'll spar with you. But I'm not going to spar with any of you because I don't trust you because you've hurt me before or you don't know how to control yourself. And I'm okay in that.
Totally. And I think, there's a big piece if we get this into a little bit more like mindset, emotions, all these things, like there's a big piece that women and men too, I guess, but specifically I find with women about speaking our truth and using our voice and actually saying no. Just for eons, we've been conditioned, not to do that. And so to have the courage to actually say like, no, this is not good for me, like that's not weakness. I think we think that's weakness, but that's actually so brave. Even now, like I'm recovering 6 months in from breaking my leg and I'm literally only doing training with my partner. And like we even went to a jiu-jitsu class this morning, just did our own thing because it was definitely a move I could not do. But I could see another girl there and, usually, the women would be like, oh, I'll partner with, another woman. And it was lucky because that situation didn't come up, but I was like, I have to be really strong and brave and put myself and my health first and say, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm coming back from an injury and I don't know you, and I just can't afford to put myself in that position at this point of time right now.
Totally.
Once upon a time, I would have people pleased or been worried about what she would have thought or they would have thought, or I would have pushed myself through the class because what if the coach thinks whatever. But over the years, I've learned to use my voice and put myself first and take care of my body. And that's actually like a way smarter way of training and better way of training than just toughing it out.
You get the best out of your sessions when you know what you're doing, like you have a purpose and an intention. Like one of the things I get that I do, and I'm starting in a new gym when I get back to the UK and I'm going to enforce it with them too, is setting intention before the class. Like, what are you here for? Even if it's just, I've had a bad day and I want to let it out. What's your intention to be here? Because then when it gets tough or when you're like struggling or you're feeling a bit lost in the class, you have that intention to refer back to. And my intention used to be alongside how I felt about myself and my disconnect with my own body and healing that relationship with my body and healing that relationship with my own inner voice. Like on the days where it'd be like, I don't think you should train today, I'd be like, ignore, keep going, keep pushing, end up injured, end up unconscious,
burnt out,
like whatever it is. And reaching a point where I'm just like, who am I doing this for? No one cares if you're not there, unless obviously you're meant to be coaching, but like training wise, no one cares if you're not there. No one cares. And learning to be like, no, I don't want to do that, or yes, I do want to do that, and doing it with conviction and tapping in and being like, how do I feel today? And that normally is my guiding response. Before I came out to Bali, I was so burnt out.
Yeah.
I'd just been pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and battered, and I had no connection of self, none at all. I was so in such a bad way, and coming here has just like got me back into alignment, and I know who I am when I go back and how I want to show up in my training, how I want to show up as a coach, how I want to show up in my own energy. Because as a woman in this world, I look at martial arts differently. I look at boxing differently. I believe that I have a new school feminine way of looking at it. And that feminine is an energy, it's not female. You know this, obviously.
I know that.
But being intuitive and being energetic in it. And how I work with the fighters now is I notice when they click out of their body like that. I notice when they're distracted. I know when they're not in the game. And I can see it so fast. I can feel it as soon as they walk in the room. Just beating somebody up and putting them through their back, like battering and smashing their session, like, come on, just get over it, whatever. That doesn't support the journey.
No.
You have to understand, okay, why are you feeling like that today? What's going on with you? What's happened this week? What have you eaten today? What are the steps that we've got to this point? And if you're with them in that space, they will learn to trust you so wholeheartedly that they'll tell you straight away when there's a problem.
Yeah.
They'll tell you straight away when they're not feeling okay. I've had fighters break down in sessions with me and I just hold the space for them. We work through it, then we go hit stuff.
Yeah.
Because that polarity, it's like the feminine and the masculine, and they always leave because unfortunately we are still not in a time where it is okay that men feel that they're okay to cry comfortably and go into that pain point comfortably. They still feel a little bit like jarred afterwards. I've watched it when men get really vulnerable with me and then afterwards it's almost like they want to cut me off.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, you've seen my pain now. Like, oof. So what I do is I'm like, cool, up you get, bring them back into their body, and then we start hitting stuff. By the end of the session, got a big smile on their face and they feel lighter.
Yeah.
And that to me is a healthier way. Fight camps aren't easy. They are one of the toughest things that people go through. It's like borderline insanity why any of us would want to do it. But it takes us somewhere raw and it takes us somewhere primal and it strips all of the coping strategies away, every single one. And what you are left with is an exposed nerve. And if you don't take care of that nerve, it is going to blow. It is going to rub you the wrong way every day and shit is going to come to the surface that you did not know could come to the surface, whether that's about your parents' divorce, whether that's about a breakup, whether that's about how you feel about yourself. Demons are loud in that period. If you've got no support around you, you've just got come on, you're a warrior. You need to go hit people. What are you going to do? Get sad? It's like, yeah,
toughen
I am.
up, mate, kind of thing, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I am going to get sad because that's how I feel right now. So I'm going to cry it out and then I'm going to carry on.
Yeah.
It's not about breaking. It's not about just sitting in your, being in a pity party. It's about understanding that this is part of the formula. You allow it to come up, then you let it go. You allow it to come up and then you let it go and you just keep moving forward. Because I come at it with that energy, that rubs other people up the wrong way because they don't understand it. They're like, this isn't how we do things. And that's been an interesting journey.
Absolutely.
But I've watched like one of my guys learn to stay in his body. For someone who, when I met him, he was so anxious. I met him because I was wrapping his gloves. I was glove runner for this fight. Never met him before. He was from another gym. I was just wrapping his hands. And he couldn't breathe. He was like, when people are trying, they think they're deep breathing, but they're actually hyperventilating. It was like...
Literally in a fight.
Yeah, literally. That feeling when you're right at that top of fear. And I was like, nobody's saying anything. And I was like, no one's stepping in. I was like, he's not your fighter, don't get involved. He's not your fighter, don't get involved. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to say something. And I just went, take a deep breath in for me. And then I took him through a box breathing exercise. And I just did about 2 minutes of box breathing and I just felt his energy just go back in his body. And off he went. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to see that man again. Yeah. It was just one of those moments I thought, we didn't even make eye contact. I didn't even know his name.
Yeah.
But I popped out while he was fighting and I was like, oh, how's he doing? He was like, he's picking him apart. He's doing so well. I was like, oh, that's nice to know. Went back in, knocked him out in I think it was the 3rd round. Yeah, it must have been because he wasn't doing 5 rounds then. And I was really proud of it. I was like, wow, that's really nice, this guy. And I thought, like I said, never going to see him again, never going to speak again. He probably doesn't even remember what I looked like. And he literally came out of the ring, through the corridor, elbowing people out the way to come and hug me.
That's awesome.
And he was like, I never would have got through that without you.
Wow. And
we've been working on his mindset now for a year. His 2nd fight, he was incredible. It was just art. It was just so good. And he was in his body the whole time and he stayed focused. And his 3rd fight, there was a lot of change in the camp and things kept happening and he was getting really in his head, but we worked on it. The more challenging it got, the more we had to go deep into that journey. Knocked the guy out in the 43 seconds, I think it was. There were some issues with the whole thing. The guy really did crumble. So it didn't showcase him in his most powerful. So we're not just handing that one over as a great win. But everything that he did before that win was the journey. Yeah. How easy he won the fight was a bit like, I was like, look, it's a win's a win.
It was like too easy.
Yeah, he was a bit like, I don't even feel like I fought. I don't even feel like I tried. But
that's the beauty of it sometimes when you've got all of these pieces in place. Sometimes it is quick finish, sometimes it's not, it's you can't control how the fight's going to go. You can prep, but sometimes that game plan goes out the window, like quick smart. And I think, like what you're teaching people with these mindset tools and like not just going away, oh, mindset, like this is what you do, but literally like bringing it into the gym, bringing it into the moment. Like if people get in a situation in a fight, they're going to know, oh, well, I've done this in training 100 times, rinse and repeat, deal with my emotions in like a second. And now I'm back in my body and my head's back in the game.
You would drill shots until they're perfect.
Yeah, so drill your mind.
Why would you not drill your mind?
Yeah.
Remember, life happens whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You could, like, a member of your family could die the morning of the fight.
Yeah.
How are you going to hold yourself together if you haven't practiced how to hold yourself together?
Yeah.
If you've never learned how to balance those energies, if you've never learned how to work with it, how to overcome it, how to like park things and pick them back, like, how are you going to know? You're not. So I believe that it's as important, if not, like they say martial arts are 80% mental. So why is no one doing mental work?
I agree, totally.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, and it makes it, like me too, working with clients that have really like fighters that have really dived into the mental side of it, and just seeing not only the change in their performance, but in their life and who they are. And it's amazing. Actually, a lot of women I find, because what we've just spoken about, we are disconnected with our body. We do think there's something to prove, even if you're not consciously aware that sometimes there, we are punishing ourselves physically. And so there can be this very deep lack of self-worth. And that plays out in abusive relationships. And yep.
Guilty.
Yeah, totally. So like, you think you're just going through a fight camp, but like you said, all the demons are there. You actually start consciously working with that. Yeah, you step yourself out of abuse. You step yourselves out of like malnutrition and all those things. Like you literally transform your life on this journey of martial arts, which I think like that's why it is so beautiful. And there's another thing you said about like being able to hold yourself together. But inside of that, I think we've got a bit of a different mindset of like what it means to hold yourself together. Actually, there's a process of letting yourself fall apart before, like that's actually part of holding yourself together, right?
Yeah, when I say holding yourself together, it's more about holding all the pieces of you, not the pieces that are attracted to society. Holding yourself together is not muting and silencing and pushing it all down. It's about being in it, embracing it, honoring it, and then knowing you've got you.
Totally.
And that is holding yourself together. That it's how do you show up with those things? That's holding yourself together. And we as humans, I think we should die and be reborn many times in our lifetime. Totally. I've gone through some major
many deaths.
So many deaths.
So many deaths.
But you realize who you are in the death and rebirth. And people are going to go through different journeys, but you don't start doing martial arts, boxing, BJJ, MMA from a place that's peaceful. I think we all carry a pain. We all carry something. We all carry a point to prove. We all carry a deep want to grow. We all carry something that's different. And that's why when I step into a martial arts gym, I feel instantly at home because I'm like, you're my people. You make sense to me. There obviously are a few people that who might be coming in for ego or whatever. But the
they
majority
don't usually last long though, those people, because it's a humbling place.
It's the most humbling place. And I find that beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I come from like music industry and the acting industry, where I come from London, where nobody cares how you are. They care about your CV. There was such a disconnect I felt in London that I was really sad about, because I was like, where's the humanness in all of this? Like, whereas at a boxing gym, I feel like you can go and be in this close proximity to someone and you're hitting each other for a few rounds, like 6 minutes or whatever, and you come out and you're like, that was amazing. And it's like a primal connection. It's such a strange thing, but the world stops in those spaces.
Yeah.
You can't be on your phone there. You can't be thinking about other things there. You're just in it with that person.
Yeah.
That person, that's it. Just you and them. And me and the girl who I had my fight with, she will always be someone so special to me because she's the only other person who was in there with me.
Yep.
The only other person. And she was the thing I dreamed of for like 16 years, and she was a worthy opponent. And we both afterwards were just like, God, I respect you.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a real love of that person, just to be like, thank you for sharing this moment and having this experience with me, because without you, there is no me in this.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool.
There is so much love in martial arts and I don't think a lot of people really show it a lot, but like you just said so beautifully then. I know everyone has experienced that, surely, whether they've recognized it or not. And it is such a beautiful space and a beautiful experience.
And I think the pro way of doing it, obviously to sell the fight and everything, is to act like they absolutely despise each other and whatever. But they don't showcase the love as much as they showcase the hate. Like,
and I think they should.
I think they should too. Yeah. I think that there should be more encouragement for that warrior respect. But it's because people are like, oh, it's so boring if they like each other. But I don't think it is. I think it's amazing to be like, we've just beaten 7 bells out of each other and I still think you're absolutely
amazing,
incredible.
Yeah.
And I love that it's there. I think it should be shown more, because I think it also reminds our society that it isn't just egos and swinging. Like, there's such an art about this that people aren't seeing, and they're not getting it.
It's not just brutal war.
No, it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
So much deeper than that.
Yeah, and I think it kind of shows where we're at as a collective, the way that we see these sorts of things. And yeah, I hope it changes. I hope we start seeing more, because I believe eventually it could be like that, and there is no more like shit talking each other to sell tickets, and it is just literally about the skill, and you know, like that's entertainment.
I think also because I can feel authenticity a mile off, and I can feel it when it's not, and so much of it feels so false.
Yeah,
so much of it feels false, and I'm not like each to theirs for any of those like keyboard warriors going to come for me for being like, it's just part, whatever. I get it. Like, I'm not silly. I'm in the entertainment industry. I know why it's happening. But I stopped watching WWE because I wanted to watch something real.
Yeah.
So for me, what they do in the ring is real. Why are you making it fake outside?
Yeah.
Why? You know what I mean? Like, for me, I'm at my most honest when I'm in a boxing gym, and I believe a lot of people are, because they can be free. They can take their armor off. So it just feels, that's why I'm like, I don't watch any of the circus. I don't find that entertaining. I don't keep up with it unless I have to, like if I'm doing a little bit of research or whatever. What I care about is the 6, 8, 10, 12 rounds, or, 3, 5, however many they are. That's what I care about, because that's when you see somebody, the truth of somebody, and ego can only carry you so far.
How has this whole, everything we've been talking about in martial arts, supported you in your singing career?
Oh my gosh. Nothing in music is ever going to be as hard as that 6 minutes. Nothing in the world. Like, I've sung in front of thousands of people, and that was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But what happened on the fight day, so once I got signed off and was told I could, that to me I'd already won. I didn't care what happened.
Yeah.
Win, lost, don't care. I was in it. That was the main thing. And I had to manage my mind because I didn't fight. My medical was at 1 and I didn't fight until 9:45. And that was only because there was knockouts. It would have been 10. So there was a 15-minute cut-off. So for effectively 8 hours, I had to stay present. I had to stay in my body. I had to not waste energy. I had to not let my head spiral. And I've been guilty of that in the past, where I've allowed the anxiety to run the show, quite literally. And I had to just cut through any of the nonsense, and I had to just keep myself really steady, basically be my own student of my mindset work. And now getting on stage is a doddle.
Yeah.
But also spending time in boxing gyms and having that humbling experience, like, I just don't take any of the nonsense of the music industry seriously anymore. It's just nonsense. Like,
you can stay authentic in yourself. Yeah.
I just want to sing songs. I just want to connect with people and share my music. I don't care for any of the bullshit anymore. It's really made me assess, who am I in this industry and who do I want to be? And also second guessing, like, when I just sing at my camera, sometimes I feel really like about it. It doesn't feel real. Like, I feel like I'm doing it because Instagram told me to.
Yeah.
So I've just stopped doing it unless I feel called to. If I feel drawn and I'm in the moment, I'm like, yeah, I'll sing now. But I'm really coming back into the artist I was when I was a kid, who felt freedom in music and felt peace in music and felt escapism in music and felt seen and heard and valued in music and felt like I had a friend in music, because you lose that. Along the way, it gets lost because the industry is just harsh and mean and cruel and loud. And then when you just go and hit things for the other part of your living, you're just like, I don't even need to entertain that.
Yeah.
I can just speak my truth and carry on with my life because it's all nonsense. If you can, get concussion because you've been smacked so hard in the ring, somebody just being like, I don't like your music, is like, okay, I'll just carry on with my life. Like, it's been a real journey. It's really helped me find peace, a lot of peace in being who I am. And I think that's why I encourage so many to do it, because if we can, more of us, be brought back into our body, out of our head, and learn to manage those instincts that tell us the fight or flight instincts. Yeah. If we can override those and learn to come back into our body and learn how to manage ourselves more, we would get less overrun. We wouldn't live in these stress states that the Western world has put us in, where we have to go, 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 go all the time, and hustle, 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 and just everything's just so awful and stressful all the time.
It's not a fun life.
It's just awful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go and hit something and see how you feel after. Yeah. Even people who are really calm come to my classes and they're like, I don't think I need this, and they like it lands, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, something nice about the crack of the
the pad on the glove. Yeah, it's just like, And it makes people feel more powerful. And I think going back to your point about abusive partnerships, and it's not that I have learned to fight to start fights. I've learned to fight to override that fight or flight, freeze, especially the freeze. And I've learned to fight so I can pull my shoulders back, because people will come for you if your shoulders are rolled over and inside you don't believe you're worth anything.
Yep.
And I want to make this abundantly clear. I'm not putting blame on anyone at all. But if you do not have a strong sense of self-worth, you will allow things to happen to you, and it's not conscious. You don't know you're doing it. You do not know. It's the victim is not blamed in this, but there is a thing.
There's an energy that you carry, and it attracts. It's universal law. Like attracts like. Like you will attract it, and that's why the mindset work, the emotional work, and the energetic work is more important than the physical work. Totally. And that's why it comes into martial arts, self-defense. You know, it's such a huge, huge, huge piece.
My thing is I want people to leave every class feeling like they can pull their shoulders back a little bit more. Whether they're having stress at work, having stress in their relationships, having stress with their kids, like having a battle within themselves, whatever. It's just every time just knowing they can carry on because they've got this.
Yeah.
And in putting that positive energy into them as well when they're there. And I always try and, I'm not unnecessarily complimentary, so I won't compliment someone for doing it wrong or be like, you're doing a great job. I will always encourage and repetition, and then I will celebrate it like they've just won a freaking gold medal at the Olympics, because I'm like, they need to feel like they're developing in this sport.
People need more of that.
Yeah.
They don't need to be torn. You know, I think a lot of people do a pretty bloody good job of tearing themselves down inside their heads.
They don't need other people to do it.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, again, in martial arts, people can be really harsh, because I understand, like, coaches are like, you're going into a dangerous environment. You need, like, what the fuck are you doing? But I'm like, what good does that do to that person? What good does it do to them?
Doesn't help me.
They're already in a bad state. Like, why would I tear that person apart and be like, for God's sake, why are you not getting it? Like, why? Okay, what's going on with you today?
Have their back rather than creating more, you know, not good enough, unworthy. Like, have their back, lift them up, encourage them, and then they're not alone anymore. They've got a team behind them, and I think that's a huge thing. One
of my clients in his camp, he had particular people that he could kind of just be a bit shitty to, and I saw it, and I was like, what was that? And apparently it's all love, like they know each other, but I hadn't witnessed that side of him before. And I spoke to the lads afterwards. I was like, is this a new thing, or is this like a thing? And they were like, oh, he's like this quite a lot. And I was like, So I sat with him and I said, what was that? And he was like, well, you know, they know this, that, and the other. I said, but what if they don't know? I said, just because you're stressed doesn't mean you get to talk like shit to other people. I'd like you to apologise to them. And I'd like you to understand that they're in your corner and they love you and they have your back and they're here training with you because they want you to be the best that you can be. Don't talk shit. Don't talk like shit to them. And he was a bit like a little boy with his head between his legs, tail between his legs or whatever, you know, a little dog. But even that, I'm like, I believe in you so much that I want you to do well and be a good person in all parts of your life, not just in the ring, because it bleeds out.
It does.
Like, don't think you can talk like that to someone. That's not cool.
It's a leadership that we all have a responsibility to ourselves, to other people.
And I wish people had done that for me.
Yeah, totally.
I wish people had seen and heard and said, that's not okay. So I have decided to be that person for others, because I've learned that whatever I do in life, I'm meant to be up the front, even if it's up the front of something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even if it's up the front of change, even if it's up the front of being new. I've had to get comfortable in that because it is in my soul's purpose. I feel it. It drives me. It's not always comfortable.
No.
But learning how to communicate and learning that if you butt heads with people, you butt heads with people, but you said your truth, like you said. I would rather live somewhere where I've helped somebody else and I feel like I'm working in alignment with myself than stay quiet because it's more comfortable for others that way.
Totally.
Because it ain't comfortable for me.
No. Where can people find you?
My music name is Phoenix Rose, so you can follow my Phoenix Rose music Instagram if people want to hear the music and stuff.
And she's an incredible singer, so please go follow if you love music.
Thanks so much. And then I have another page which is Big Sis Coaching, so that's the umbrella of my company. And then I have Martial Arts Mindset, so the website's on there. You can see all of that, and that's more of the boxing content. And like I said, I've got website Big Sis Coaching, so that's more aimed at my women, people who want to maybe try martial arts to build their self-worth, their confidence, maybe do some coaching that's a bit more holistic. That's not just for women though, men can do that as well. But I've also got Martial Arts Mindset, which is a lot more like fighter mindset, where I do like the camp work and, but also people who are like CEOs, other like sort of higher athletes, that kind of thing, because it's all about mind.
Success. It's all
the same
totally
thing. But yeah, so if anyone wants to check me out, you can check me out there.
What would you say to a woman? I've got two questions. A, wanting to get started. We'll start there. and then I'll get to B after.
So what I've said before is do research. So check out the gyms that are closest to you. Bring a friend. Even if that friend doesn't stick with it, take one to go with you, because I know it can be really nerve-wracking to walk into those spaces alone. You can always, I always say call ahead as well if you want to chat to someone and just be like, I'm interested, but I'm really nervous, blah, blah, blah. And you can also then, even if you never go there, you can get a feel of the energy.
Yeah.
So if that phone call doesn't feel right, then you know you don't want to go to that gym. You can seek out female coaches. There are fewer of us, but you can do, again, you can do your research to see if you can find them. I can do online stuff as well. So if people wanted to speak to me, they can. If that is what your soul is calling you to do, be brave.
Do it.
Just do it. If it is in you and it is urging you forward, sometimes don't do any of the above, just walk through the door and the rest will take care of itself. And you will know that that's in your pathway, and then you will know which gym to go to. It will just be innate. So trust that. But if you're struggling to trust that,
do the other steps.
do the other steps.
Great advice. What's one tip that you could give the ladies listening, and the men if they're listening too, to support their mindset, to build more confidence, resiliency, maybe? I mean, for me, it's like all about compassion, really. Yes. But yeah.
One tip, that's a hard one
I know.
hard one to break down.
Well, maybe when you said you were about to go in your fight and you were just racked with anxiety, what's one thing that you did to support that process for that 8 hours? Okay.
Grounding is a massive one.
Yeah.
I actually have some really short meditations. The whole point in my company was to be able to be, I called it Big Sis because I wanted to be that support system. So just that person who was just like on your shoulder. So I made them short so that if people were having a wobble, they could quickly listen to that and it could reset them. And then they can listen to it as many times as they need to. And grounding, you can do it, just take your shoes off, walk on the grass, or go in the water or whatever. But if you're in a crazy environment, you can't. It's just about imagining roots growing out from underneath your feet.
Yeah.
And just bedding yourself into that room, bedding yourself into the earth and incorporating, working with the breath with that. That is the easiest, quickest and best way to solidify yourself into a situation. Because if you're up here, it's going to stay up here if you don't bring it back down again. That's probably the quickest and easiest way I would recenter. Do that before you go into a big meeting. Do that before you take part in a sporting event. Do that if you're in fight camp. Every time you go into a session, if your mind is boggled, do that before every session. Just get into your body.
Yeah.
And that will carry you the rest of the way.
I find for me, because I'm a hella nervous fighter, I've just a ball of nerves the whole time. Actually, even just admitting, oh, I'm really nervous right now, because again, you're not trying to resist it. So like I've found, oh, I'm really nervous. So what? Like it's just that part of acceptance. And then like going into the grounding is really, really.
And what's interesting is like, why would we not admit that we're nervous?
Yeah, I know.
Of course you're nervous. You're about to step into a ring where you and another person are going to kick the shit out of each other.
Nerves are good.
Nerves are part of it.
Yes.
Nerves keep you on edge. Nerves keep you focused. If you are not nervous, you're not in the process as much. I mean, you know, some people can get to a point where they just feel super chilled about it, but it's rare that happens.
Yeah, I think it takes a long time.
But I think
different people.
Admitting every emotional state that you're in, because it's not, I'm nervous, I'm not going to do this. Because people get afraid. Like, no, don't be nervous.
Yeah.
But why? I am. Doesn't mean I'm going to quit. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. I just feel these emotions.
Yeah, this is what's here.
If we can just get comfortable in that being like, yeah, cool, that's normal. Of course you're going to be nervous. Don't worry about it. You've got this. Sweet. On to the next bit.
I said to my partner, Ryan, once, oh, I need to have a better mindset like you. Like, you're so confident. You're so calm. Like, you're so chill. And I'm just like a ball of nerves. And he was like, why do you think your mindset is the wrong mindset? And I was like, oh, I don't know. It'd be nice not to be so nervous all the time, but like it's pretty uncomfortable feeling these feelings, but I can feel them. I just wonder, like, are they ever going to go away kind of thing? And he was like, well, your track record's pretty good. Like, it's a bit better than mine. So, you know, who's to say that like your way is the wrong way? And that really hit me. I was like,
There is no wrong way.
Thanks, nerves.
Yeah. But also there's no wrong way to be a human.
Exactly.
Again, we've been forced into these blueprints that are fake. They're not real. You know, it's like Instagram. It's just an illusion of somebody else's perfect show reel.
Yeah.
But we all feel the same things. And the work I've done with people, I can promise you, it comes down to just a handful of fundamentals. Am I loved? Am I seen? Am I heard? Am I worthy?
Yeah.
That's it. Every single human being.
Totally.
Nothing. All comes down.
Men, women, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, yep, 100%.
Men, women, however you identify, across the board, those are the 4 things that everything comes down to. Everything, which shows we are all the same.
Yep.
Colour, sexual orientation, religion, it's all fucking nonsense.
Yep.
It's all nonsense. We are all the same human beings and all we want is to be loved, seen, heard, and believe that we're worthy. That's it.
Boom, baby. Thank you.
What a finisher.
What a finisher. Thank you so much for doing this with me.